The rain hammered against our smart home's windows like nature's own drum roll, setting the perfect backdrop for what would become the most entertaining evening of my marriage. I should have known something was coming when Lena started rearranging the silverware. My wife only fidgets with utensils when she's about to drop a bomb. "Finn," she said, her voice carrying that particular tone she uses when she thinks she's being clever. "I have something to tell you." I looked up from my salmon, noting how she'd positioned herself strategically near the kitchen island, close enough to the wine bottle for liquid courage, far enough from me to avoid immediate reaction. After 15 years in IT consulting and 3 years running my home automation business, I'd learned to read patterns. Lena's body language was screaming preparation for impact. "Let me guess," I said, cutting another piece of fish with deliberate precision. "Your mother wants to extend her visit again." "No, it's not Mom." She twisted her wedding ring. Another tell. "It's Trent. Trent Ardell." The name hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. I set down my fork and gave her my full attention, the way a spider might focus on a fly that just landed in its web. "Trent, your ex-boyfriend, Trent? The crypto entrepreneur who thinks blockchain is a personality trait?" "He's not my ex anymore, Finn. We're friends now. Good friends. And he needs a place to stay for a week while he's in town for business meetings." The audacity was breathtaking. I had to admire it, really. Here was my wife of 8 years, sitting in our dining room, asking if her former lover could move into our guest bedroom. The same guest bedroom where we'd hosted her parents last Christmas, where my mother stayed when she visited from Florida. "Just friends now," I repeated, tasting each word like wine. "How modern of you both." "Don't be sarcastic, Finn. It doesn't suit you." Actually, sarcasm suited me perfectly. It was my native language, refined through years of dealing with clients who thought turning their computers off and on again was beneath them. But Lena was nervous, and nervous people make mistakes. I wanted to see what other gems she might drop. "When exactly is this friendly visit supposed to happen?" "Next week, Monday through Friday. Maybe the weekend if his meetings run long." "Maybe the weekend." Of course. Because nothing says just friends like extending a business trip for leisure time. I reached for my water glass, buying myself a moment to process. Through our smart home's integrated system, I could see Lena's phone lighting up on the kitchen counter. Text messages, probably from the man himself. The timing was too perfect to be coincidental. "You know what?" I said, and I watched her shoulders relax slightly. She thought she'd won. "That sounds perfect." "Really?" The relief in her voice was almost touching. "Absolutely. In fact, I have some good news too. Venner is flying in Tuesday. Old friend from college. She'll take the guest room across the hall." The color drained from Lena's face like water from a broken dam. Her fork clattered against her plate, and for a moment, the only sound was rain against glass and the quiet hum of our refrigerator. "Venner?" she whispered. "You know her?" I asked innocently. "Tall brunette, works in social media marketing, has this adorable laugh that sounds like wind chimes. She's been texting me about visiting for months." This was partially true. Kara had been texting me, but not about visiting. She'd been texting about Trent, about how she'd found messages on his phone, about how she'd discovered he was still married to someone in Costa Rica, about how she'd learned there was another woman, my wife, who thought she was next in line. Lena stood abruptly, her chair scraping against our hardwood floor. "I need to make a phone call." "Of course you do." She grabbed her phone and disappeared toward our guest bathroom, the one with the thick walls and good acoustics. I finished my salmon methodically, listening to the muffled sounds of panic from down the hall. Even through the walls, I could make out fragments. "He knows. I don't know how. This is bad, Trent. This is really bad." While my wife had her breakdown, I opened my laptop and navigated to a folder I'd been building for 6 months. Not the kind of evidence folder you see in movies. I wasn't photographing hotel receipts or hiring private investigators. This was better. This was metadata. Call logs showing Lena and Trent's phones connecting for hours at a time, always when she claimed to be working late. Location data from her fitness app showing her in 4 different cities I'd never visited, cities where Trent had posted social media updates. Banking records showing transfers from our joint vacation fund to a crypto wallet I'd traced back to an account in Trent's name. $43,000. Our trip to Italy, our new deck, our emergency fund, all converted to digital currency and sitting in Trent Ardell's portfolio. The bathroom door opened, and Lena emerged looking like someone who'd just learned their lottery ticket was a fake. Her eyes were red, her makeup smudged, and she was clutching her phone like a lifeline. "Finn, we need to talk." "We are talking. About Kara. About how you know her." I closed my laptop and leaned back in my chair. "She reached out a few months ago, said she'd heard I was married to you, wanted to reconnect. Small world, isn't it?" "What did she tell you?" "About what?" "About her and Trent." "Should she have told me something about her and Trent?" Lena's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, fear, calculation, and finally, desperation. She was trying to figure out how much I knew, how much Kara had revealed, how deep the hole she'd dug really was. "Finn, you're being paranoid. This jealousy, this controlling behavior, this is why our marriage has been struggling." There it was, the script I'd been waiting for. When caught in a lie, attack the person who caught you. Make them the problem. Make them the villain. It was textbook gaslighting, and Lena delivered it with the conviction of someone who'd practiced in the mirror. I opened my laptop again and turned the screen toward her. On it was a hotel confirmation email. The Kimpton Hotel, downtown Portland, honeymoon suite, reserved for next Tuesday through Friday, Lena Morell and Trent Ardell. "Friends don't book honeymoon suites," I said quietly. Lena stared at the screen for a long moment. I watched her face cycle through denial, anger, and finally, defeat. Her shoulders sagged, and she sank back into her chair. "How long have you known?" 6 months. Maybe longer. The metadata doesn't lie, Lena. Neither do blockchain transactions. The vacation fund? Currently sitting in Trent's crypto wallet, along with about $15,000 from your personal account that you probably thought I wouldn't notice. She was crying now, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of frustration, the kind you cry when a plan falls apart and you realize you've been outmaneuvered by someone you underestimated. "What do you want?" she asked. "I want you to text Trent. Tell him the visit is canceled. Tell him it's over. Tell him to find another place to stay and another woman to fund his lifestyle." Lena's fingers moved across her phone screen with the speed of someone trying to stop a disaster. I watched her type, delete, retype, and finally send a message. Then another. Then a third. My own phone buzzed with a notification. Kara had been monitoring Trent's messages. Apparently, he wasn't smart enough to hide his phone from his actual girlfriend. The text was short. "Don't come. Ever. It's finished." "There," Lena said, setting her phone down. "It's done." "Good." We sat in silence for a moment, the rain continuing its percussion against our windows. I could see Lena processing, trying to figure out what came next, whether this was the end of her marriage or just the end of her affair. "What happens now?" she asked. I closed my laptop and stood up, collecting our dinner plates with the same methodical precision I'd used to build my evidence folder. Now we see how good you are at sleeping alone. The guest room is all yours." As I loaded the dishwasher, I could hear Lena making another phone call. This time she wasn't trying to hide it. I caught fragments. "He knows everything." "No, I don't know how we fix this." "Yes, I think she told him." By the time I finished cleaning the kitchen, Lena had retreated to the guest room. I found myself alone in our living room, surrounded by the smart home technology I'd installed over the past 3 years. Motion sensors, security cameras, integrated sound system, Automated lighting, all of it connected, all of it recording, all of it under my control. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to Kara's contact information. We'd been planning this moment for weeks, ever since she'd discovered Trent's little harem and decided she wanted revenge. She was flying in tomorrow, not Tuesday. She'd been in town for 3 days already, staying at a hotel downtown, gathering her own evidence. The text I sent was simple. Phase 1 complete. Ready for Phase 2? Her response came immediately. Let's burn them both. I poured myself a glass of wine and settled into my favorite chair. Outside, the storm was intensifying, but inside, everything was perfectly calm. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new confrontations, new opportunities to watch my wife's carefully constructed lies crumble. But tonight, I was content to sit in my living room, in my house, surrounded by my technology, knowing that for the first time in months, I was the one with all the cards. The guest room door was closed, and no light showed underneath. Lena was probably lying awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how her perfect plan had gone so wrong so quickly. I hoped she was comfortable. She was going to be spending a lot more nights alone. I woke up at 5:47 a.m. to the sound of Lena's rental car pulling out of our driveway. Through our bedroom window, I watched her Honda Civic disappear into the morning mist, heading toward downtown Portland, where her real estate firm occupied the top floor of a glass office building. She'd left early, probably hoping to avoid another confrontation, or maybe planning strategy with whatever allies she thought she had left. The house felt different without her presence. Lighter, somehow, like a weight had been lifted from rooms that had been holding their breath. I made coffee using our automated system, watching the machine grind beans and heat water with the same precision I'd applied to documenting my wife's betrayal. My home office occupied what used to be a spare bedroom, converted 3 years ago when I'd started my automation consulting business. 2 monitors, a standing desk, and enough computing power to run a small company. The walls were lined with technical manuals and industry certifications, but this morning my attention focused on a single folder icon on my desktop. Project Documentation. Inside that folder was 6 months of my life, distilled into spreadsheets, screenshots, and financial records. Not the dramatic evidence you see in movies, no photographs of secret meetings or recorded phone conversations. This was better. This was data. I opened the first file, a call log analysis showing patterns in Lena's phone usage. Every call to Trent's number, cross-referenced with her work calendar and our shared Google schedule. The pattern was elegant in its deception. Calls always came during client meetings or property showings. Never during lunch, never during evening hours when I might notice, never on weekends when we were together. But metadata doesn't lie. Those 15-minute client calls lasted 47 minutes on average. The quick check-ins during property tours happened in locations where Lena had no scheduled appointments. Her fitness tracker, synced to her phone for step counting, showed her visiting the same downtown hotel 6 times in 2 months, the Kimpton Hotel, where she'd booked the honeymoon suite for next week. The second file contained financial records. Our joint checking account showed regular transfers to what Lena had labeled marketing expenses for her real estate work. $1,500 here, $2,000 there, never enough to trigger my attention individually, but aggregated over 6 months, the total was devastating, $23,147. Those transfers went to a secondary account Lena had opened without telling me. From there, the money moved to cryptocurrency exchanges, converted to Bitcoin, and transferred to a wallet registered under Trent Ardell's name. I'd traced the blockchain transactions myself, following the digital breadcrumbs like a forensic accountant. The vacation fund had been simpler. One large transfer of $43,000, authorized with Lena's digital signature, moved to the same crypto wallet. Our trip to Italy, our kitchen renovation, our emergency savings, all converted to digital currency sitting in another man's portfolio. My phone buzzed with a text from Kara. Coffee? I'm at the place downtown. The place downtown was Arabica, a coffee shop 3 blocks from Lena's office. Kara had been conducting her own surveillance, learning Lena's routines, identifying her vulnerabilities. We'd become unlikely allies in this war, united by Trent's greed and dishonesty. I found Kara at a corner table, laptop open, looking like any other remote worker starting her day. She was prettier than her social media photos suggested. Dark hair, sharp eyes, the kind of understated elegance that comes from confidence rather than effort. She left early today, I said, sliding into the chair across from her. Panic mode. Trent's been calling her since midnight. I may have mentioned that his Costa Rica wife is flying in next week. Costa Rica wife? Kara turned her laptop screen toward me. On it was a marriage certificate filed in San Jose 9 months ago. Trent Ardell and Maria Santos, legally wed in a ceremony that made his relationship with Kara and his pursuit of Lena bigamous. Maria found out about me 3 weeks ago, found out about your wife 2 days ago. She's not happy. How many women is he juggling? At least 4 that I know of, maybe more. He has a system, finds women with resources, convinces them they're special, extracts what he can, then moves on. Your wife was supposed to be his biggest score yet. I studied the marriage certificate, noting the official seals and signatures. This is real? Completely legal, which makes everything he's done since then fraud. The crypto investments, the relationship promises, the money transfers, all of it based on lies. What does Maria want? Justice, and her money back. Turns out Trent convinced her to invest her family's restaurant profits in his crypto schemes, about $80,000. The scope of Trent's operation was becoming clear. He wasn't just a cheating boyfriend, he was running a sophisticated romance scam, targeting successful women and systematically draining their resources. Lena wasn't his girlfriend. She was his mark. Where is he now? Hotel downtown. The Marriott, not the Kimpton. Apparently, he's saving the honeymoon suite for special occasions. We need to move fast. If he figures out how much we know, he'll run. I know. That's why Maria is flying in today instead of next week. We're accelerating the timeline. Kara closed her laptop and leaned forward. How much does Lena know about your evidence? She knows I have financial records and hotel reservations. She doesn't know about the metadata analysis or the crypto tracing. And she definitely doesn't know about Maria. Good. Let her think she can still salvage this. Desperate people make bigger mistakes. We spent the next hour planning our strategy. Kara would maintain her cover as my old college friend, using her real background in social media marketing to justify her presence in town. I would continue gathering evidence, focusing on real-time communications between Lena and Trent. Maria would arrive this afternoon, armed with legal documents and a burning desire for revenge. What's the endgame? I asked as we prepared to leave. Total exposure, financial, social, legal, everything. Trent loses his marks, his money, and his freedom to operate. Lena loses her marriage, her reputation, and her stolen funds. And us? Kara smiled, and for the first time, I understood why Trent had been drawn to her. We get our lives back, and we make sure this never happens to anyone else. I drove home through Portland's morning traffic, past the office buildings and coffee shops that formed the backdrop of my wife's deception. My phone showed 3 missed calls from Lena and 2 text messages. We need to talk, and this doesn't have to be complicated. But it was already complicated. 6 months of lies, nearly $70,000 in stolen funds, and a web of relationships that spanned multiple states and countries. Lena had made it complicated the moment she decided our marriage was worth less than whatever Trent had promised her. Back in my office, I opened a new file in my evidence folder, real-time monitoring. Using software I'd originally designed for client security systems, I began tracking digital communications in our household. Every device connected to our network, every app that synced with our shared accounts, every digital footprint that might reveal Lena's next move. The first result came immediately, a calendar appointment Lena had created for this afternoon. Emergency meeting, TBD location. The appointment was shared with one contact, Trent Ardell. I smiled and added the information to my file. Lena thought she was being clever, but she was still thinking like someone who had secrets to hide. I was thinking like someone who had already won. My phone buzzed with another text from Kara. Maria landed early. She wants to meet Lena today. I typed back, perfect timing. Lena has an emergency meeting planned. Where? I checked Lena's location services, watching the blue dot that represented my wife move through downtown Portland. She'd stopped at a parking garage near the waterfront, probably trying to find somewhere private for her conversation with Trent. Marina District. They're meeting now. On our way. I closed my laptop and headed for my car. The morning's research had been productive, but the real work was just beginning. Lena and Trent thought they were meeting to plan damage control. Instead, they were walking into a trap 6 months in the making. The rain had stopped, leaving Portland's streets wet and gleaming under overcast skies. Perfect weather for watching someone's world fall apart. The marina parking garage smelled like seawater and car exhaust, with that distinctive Pacific Northwest dampness that clings to concrete and metal. I parked on the 3rd level, positioning my Honda Pilot where I could see the entrance while remaining invisible to anyone arriving after me. Through my windshield, I watched Lena's rental car sitting 2 rows away, engine off, windows fogged from nervous breathing. She'd been there for 20 minutes, checking her phone every 30 seconds, adjusting her makeup in the rearview mirror, rehearsing whatever story she planned to tell Trent. From my angle, I could see her lips moving, practicing her lines like an actress preparing for the performance of her life. My phone buzzed with a text from Kara. 2 blocks away, Maria is with me. She's not happy. Maria Santos turned out to be a small woman with the kind of quiet intensity that comes from being systematically betrayed by someone you trusted. When Kara introduced us at the garage entrance, Maria's handshake was firm, her English accented but precise, her eyes holding the focused anger of someone who'd traveled 2,000 miles for justice. "This is the man?" she asked, studying my face. "Trent's latest victim," Kara confirmed. "His wife, anyway." "Where is she?" I pointed toward Lena's car. "Waiting for him. They think they're meeting to plan damage control." "They are wrong," Maria said simply. A silver BMW pulled into the garage, its engine echoing off concrete walls. Trent Ardell emerged looking exactly like his social media photos. Tall, artificially tanned, wearing the kind of expensive casual clothes that scream, "I make money in ways you don't understand." He moved with the confidence of someone who'd never faced real consequences for his actions. That was about to change. "Remember the plan," Kara whispered as we took positions behind a concrete pillar. "Let them talk first. We need them to incriminate themselves." Trent approached Lena's car and knocked on the passenger window. She unlocked the doors, and he slid inside. Even from 50 feet away, I could see the tension in their body language. Lena leaning forward, gesturing frantically, Trent sitting back with his arms crossed. "Can you hear anything?" Maria asked. I pulled out my phone and opened an app I'd installed months ago. Originally designed for monitoring my home security system, it could amplify and filter ambient sound through the phone's microphone. I adjusted the settings and held the device toward their car. "Told you this was a mistake," Lena's voice came through, distorted but audible. "He knows about the hotel. He knows about the money. How much does he know?" Trent's voice was calmer, calculating. "Everything. The transfers, the crypto wallet, even your other—" Lena's voice dropped, but I caught the word women. "Impossible. I've been careful." Apparently not careful enough. And there's something else. He says Kara Venner is coming to visit. The silence that followed was beautiful. I could practically see Trent's face processing the implications, realizing that his carefully constructed web of lies was collapsing. "Kara's in Seattle," he said finally. Are you sure? Another pause. Longer this time. We need to leave town, Trent said. Both of us. Tonight. I can't just disappear, Trent. I have a job, a life. You have a husband who's about to destroy everything. We take what we can and start over somewhere else. With what money? You have everything in crypto, and he probably knows about that too. I have other resources. Like what? Like Maria's restaurant money. Like the investment fund from the Portland group. Like... Kara stepped out from behind our pillar, her movement deliberate and visible. Maria followed, and I brought up the rear, my phone still recording their conversation. Lena saw us first. Her face went through a series of expressions: confusion, recognition, and finally, absolute terror. She said something to Trent, who turned to look through the rear window. The look on his face when he saw Maria was worth 6 months of investigation. "Hello, husband," Maria called out, her voice carrying clearly across the garage. Trent opened the car door and stood up, his artificial confidence cracking like cheap paint. "Maria, what are you doing here?" "I come to meet your girlfriend, and to get my money back." Lena emerged from the driver's side, looking between Maria and Trent with growing understanding. "Husband?" she repeated. "Did he not tell you?" Maria asked. "We married 9 months ago in Costa Rica. Very beautiful ceremony. Very expensive, too. He used my family's money for the wedding." We're not actually," Trent started. "We are married," Maria said firmly, producing a folder from her purse. "I have papers, legal papers, which make everything he do with you illegal." Kara stepped forward, her phone in her hand. "And I have recordings, lots of recordings. Trent promising marriage to multiple women, taking their money, lying about his legal status." "This is harassment," Trent said, but his voice lacked conviction. "This is justice," I replied, holding up my own phone. "And evidence. 6 months of financial records, communication logs, and blockchain transactions. Every dollar you stole, every lie you told, every law you broke." Lena looked like someone who'd just realized she'd been swimming with sharks. "Trent, you told me you were divorced. You said Maria was your ex-wife." "I told you what you wanted to hear," Trent snapped, his mask finally slipping, just like I told her what she wanted to hear, just like I told all of them. "All of them?" Lena whispered. Kara laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Show her the list, Finn." I pulled up a file on my phone, a spreadsheet containing names, dates, and financial amounts. Jennifer Martinez in Phoenix, 32,000. Rebecca Thompson in Denver, 41,000. Lisa Chen in San Francisco, 58,000. And those are just the ones we've confirmed. "You're running a romance scam," Lena said, the words coming out like she was tasting something bitter. "I'm an entrepreneur," Trent replied. "I find opportunities and capitalize on them." "You're a criminal," Maria said, "and I have lawyers. Good lawyers. They're very interested in your opportunities." The garage fell silent, except for the distant sound of traffic and seagulls. Trent looked between the four of us, probably calculating his chances of talking his way out of the situation. Lena stood frozen, finally understanding the scope of what she'd gotten involved in. "What do you want?" Trent asked finally. "Everything back," Maria said. "My money, her money, their money. All of it." "And full disclosure," Kara added. "Every woman you've scammed, every account you've opened, every lie you've told. And consequences," I finished. "Real ones. Legal ones." Trent's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face went pale. "I need to go." "No," Maria said quietly. "You need to stay. Police want to talk to you." "You called the police?" "I call many people. Lawyers, police, FBI Financial Crimes Unit. They're very interested in your crypto activities." Sirens echoed from somewhere in the distance, growing closer. Trent looked toward the garage exit, then back at us, his options narrowing by the second. "This isn't over," he said. "Yes, it is," Lena replied, her voice stronger than I'd heard it in months. "It's completely over." She walked toward me. stopping just close enough to speak without the others hearing. Finn, I know I can't fix this. I know I've destroyed everything, but I need you to know. I never meant for it to go this far. How far did you mean for it to go? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. The sirens were getting closer. Trent made a decision, sprinting toward his BMW and starting the engine. But Maria had anticipated this. She'd positioned her rental car to block the exit ramp. Smart woman, Kara observed. Smart enough to marry better next time, Maria replied. Police cars entered the garage from both ends, their lights painting concrete walls in alternating red and blue. Trent's BMW sat trapped between Maria's car and a wall, engine running but nowhere to go. I watched my wife observe the scene, her lover arrested, her affair exposed, her life as she'd known it ending in a parking garage that smelled like fish and regret. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by the reality of what she'd participated in. What happens now? She asked. Now you figure out how to rebuild your life without other people's money, I said, starting with finding somewhere else to live. The police were efficient and professional. Trent was arrested on charges of fraud, bigamy, and money laundering. His BMW was impounded, his phone confiscated, his crypto accounts frozen pending investigation. Maria provided documentation, Kara offered testimony, and I handed over my evidence folder. Lena wasn't arrested. She was classified as a victim, albeit a willing one. But her role in the financial transfers would require extensive legal proceedings, and her reputation in Portland's tight-knit real estate community was effectively finished. As the police cars left with Trent in custody, the four of us stood in the garage's artificial lighting, processing what had just happened. Thank you, Maria said to me. Without your evidence, he might have escaped. Thank you for coming forward. Without your marriage certificate, this would have been much harder to prove. Kara was already on her phone, probably updating the other victims we'd identified. The Portland group is meeting tomorrow. Rebecca's flying in from Denver. Jennifer's driving up from Phoenix. They want to coordinate legal action. What about you? I asked Lena. She was leaning against her rental car, staring at the oil stains on the concrete floor. I don't know. I need to call a lawyer. Figure out how much trouble I'm in. Probably a lot. Probably. We stood in uncomfortable silence for a moment. 6 months of deception, nearly $70,000 in fraud, and a marriage that had been hollow long before Trent arrived to exploit its weaknesses. I'll have my things out of the house by tomorrow, Lena said finally. Good. She got in her car and drove away, leaving me alone with Kara and Maria. The garage felt different without her presence, cleaner somehow, like the air was easier to breathe. Drink? Kara suggested. I think we've earned it. Yes, Maria agreed, but somewhere with better lighting. This place is depressing. As we walked toward the exit, I realized that for the first time in months, I felt genuinely optimistic about the future. Not because my marriage was over. That had been inevitable since the moment Lena chose Trent over honesty. But because I'd proven something important to myself. I was smarter, more resourceful, and more determined than the people who'd tried to deceive me. Tomorrow would bring lawyers and paperwork, and the complicated process of untangling 8 years of shared finances. But tonight, I was going to have a drink with 2 women who'd helped me expose the truth, and celebrate the fact that sometimes justice actually works. The marina stretched out beyond the garage, boats bobbing in their slips under overcast skies. Somewhere out there, honest people were living honest lives, building relationships based on truth rather than exploitation. I was looking forward to joining them. 3 weeks later, I sat in my lawyer's office reviewing documents that would officially end my marriage and begin the complex process of financial recovery. The paperwork was extensive: asset division, debt allocation, restitution claims, and criminal testimony requirements. Lena had signed everything without contest, probably on advice from her own attorney, who'd explained exactly how precarious her legal position had become. The good news, my lawyer said, adjusting his glasses as he reviewed the settlement agreement. is that the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit has frozen most of Trent's assets. You should recover about 60% of the stolen funds within 6 months. And the bad news? Your wife's involvement complicates things. She'll likely face civil penalties and possible criminal charges. The prosecutor hasn't decided whether to pursue fraud charges against her yet. Through the office window, I could see Portland's downtown district, the same streets where Lena had conducted her affair, where Trent had run his elaborate scam, where 4 women had been systematically deceived and robbed. The view looked different now, cleaner, more honest, like a painting that had been restored to its original colors. My phone buzzed with a text from Kara. "Coffee? I have updates." We'd maintained our friendship after Trent's arrest, bonding over the shared experience of rebuilding our lives after systematic betrayal. Kara had decided to stay in Portland, using her social media expertise to help other fraud victims document and report financial crimes. She'd become something of a local expert on romance scams, consulting with police departments and victim advocacy groups. I found her at our usual table at Arabica, laptop open, surrounded by the organized chaos of someone fighting multiple battles simultaneously. She looked up as I approached, her expression mixing satisfaction with exhaustion. "Tell me you have good news," I said, settling into the chair across from her. "Better than good. Trent pled guilty this morning. Full confession, complete financial disclosure, cooperation with ongoing investigations." "What's his sentence?" 7 years federal prison, full restitution to victims, permanent ban from cryptocurrency trading, and supervised probation for 5 years after release. I felt something loosen in my chest, a tension I'd been carrying for months without realizing it. 7 years seems light for what he did. It's enough, and the restitution order covers everyone, you, me, Maria, all the other women. The court froze his assets immediately, including some offshore accounts the FBI discovered. Kara turned her laptop screen toward me, showing a spreadsheet that detailed Trent's complete financial empire. The scope was staggering. 14 victims across 8 states, over $400,000 in confirmed fraud, and a network of shell companies designed to hide stolen funds. How many women total? 17 that we've confirmed, probably more who haven't come forward yet. And they're all getting their money back? Most of it. The court appointed a special master to liquidate Trent's assets and distribute them proportionally. Everyone should recover between 60 and 80% of their losses. I studied the spreadsheet, noting familiar names and shocking amounts. Jennifer Martinez had lost more than I'd initially thought, $47,000 over 18 months. Rebecca Thompson's losses exceeded $60,000. Maria's family restaurant money totaled $82,000, nearly wiping out 3 generations of savings. What about Lena? Kara's expression darkened slightly. That's more complicated. The prosecutor is treating her as both victim and co-conspirator. She'll get her money back, but she might face charges for money laundering and fraud. Might? Depends on how cooperative she is with the ongoing investigation. If she helps identify other victims and provides testimony about Trent's methods, they might offer immunity. Through the coffee shop window, I watched Portland's morning routine unfold. Commuters hurrying to work, tourists consulting maps, street vendors setting up their carts, normal people living normal lives, unaware that their city had been home to one of the most sophisticated romance scams the FBI had seen in years. "Have you talked to her?" Kara asked. "Once. She called last week to apologize." "How did that go?" "About as well as you'd expect. She wanted forgiveness. I wanted honesty. Neither of us got what we wanted." Kara closed her laptop and leaned forward. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Shoot. Do you miss her? The marriage, I mean, not the deception." I considered the question, trying to separate 8 years of shared history from 6 months of systematic lies. I miss the person I thought she was, but that person might never have existed. That's the hardest part about this kind of fraud. It makes you question everything, every memory, Every conversation, every moment of happiness. Was any of it real? Some of it was real, the early years before things got complicated. But people change, and sometimes they change into someone you don't recognize. My phone rang, a number I didn't recognize with a Portland area code. I answered cautiously, expecting a telemarketer or wrong number. Is this Finn Morell? The voice was female, nervous, young. Yes. My name is Ashley Chen. I think I was dating the same man as your wife. I looked at Kara, who was already opening her laptop again. Are you talking about Trent Ardell? Yes. I saw the news reports about his arrest. I've been trying to decide whether to come forward. How much did he take from you? $38,000. My student loan money, my savings account, money I borrowed from my parents. He said it was for a business investment, that we'd be partners. When did this happen? Last year, before he started seeing your wife, I think. He told me he was single, that he'd never been married, that I was the only woman he'd ever really loved. Kara was already typing, adding Ashley's information to what had become a master database of Trent's victims. The pattern was always the same: isolation, love bombing, financial manipulation, and abandonment. Ashley, you need to contact the FBI immediately. There's a restitution fund, and you might be able to recover most of your money. Really? Really. And there are other women who went through exactly what you did. You're not alone. After I gave Ashley the contact information for the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit and Kara's Victim Advocacy Group, I hung up feeling both hopeful and exhausted. Every new victim we discovered meant more justice for Trent's crimes, but also more evidence of how extensive his deception had been. That makes 18, Kara said, updating her spreadsheet. How many more do you think are out there? Based on his financial records? Probably at least a dozen. Romance scammers like Trent usually operate for years before getting caught. He was just getting started. We spent the next hour reviewing the complete timeline of Trent's criminal enterprise. It had begun 3 years ago in Seattle, where he'd targeted women through dating apps and social media. His method was sophisticated. He researched his victims thoroughly, crafted personalized approaches, and built elaborate fictional backgrounds to support his lies. Lena hadn't been his first married target, just his most lucrative. He'd specifically sought out women with access to joint accounts and investment funds, women whose husbands trusted them with financial decisions, women who felt undervalued in their marriages and might be susceptible to romantic attention. The FBI profiler thinks he's a classic narcissistic sociopath, Kara explained. No empathy, no genuine emotional connections, just an ability to mimic normal human relationships for personal gain. And Lena fell for it completely. They all did. That's what makes him so dangerous. He's genuinely charming when he wants to be. He studies what women want to hear and then delivers it perfectly. My phone buzzed with another text, this time from an unknown number. This is Lena. Can we meet? I have something to show you. I showed the message to Kara, who frowned. What do you think she wants? Probably to try one more time to salvage something from this mess. Are you going to meet her? I thought about it for a moment. Part of me was curious about what Lena might have to say, what new revelation or apology she might offer. But a larger part of me was simply tired of the drama, ready to move forward with my life without looking backward. No, I said finally. Whatever she has to show me, I don't need to see it. I deleted the message without responding and turned back to Kara's laptop. There was still work to do. More victims to contact, more evidence to organize, more justice to pursue. Trent was in prison, but his crimes had affected dozens of people, and each of them deserved the chance to recover and rebuild. What's next? I asked. The Portland Victim Support Group meets tomorrow night. Ashley will probably be there, along with 3 other women who've come forward this week. They want to hear from someone who actually caught the guy. You want me to speak? I want you to tell your story, how you gathered evidence, how you built a case, how you turned the tables on someone who thought he was smarter than everyone else. Through the coffee shop window, Portland continued its daily routine, unaware that justice had been served in a marina parking garage 3 weeks ago. But for the women who'd been targeted by Trent Ardell, for the families who'd lost their savings to his lies, for the community that had been damaged by his crimes, justice was just the beginning. Recovery would take longer. Trust would be harder to rebuild. But at least now they had the truth, and sometimes the truth is enough to start over. "I'll be there," I told Kara, "but I'm not promising to be inspirational. Just be honest. That's all anyone wants, someone who tells the truth." As I walked back to my car, I realized that honesty had become my default setting. After months of living with lies, of questioning every conversation and doubting every memory, the simple act of telling the truth felt revolutionary. My phone showed no new messages from Lena. Whatever she'd wanted to show me would remain a mystery, and I was comfortable with that. Some chapters need to end without resolution. Some questions don't need answers, and some people don't deserve second chances. I drove home through streets that looked familiar but felt different, like a neighborhood I'd visited in childhood and was seeing again as an adult. Everything was the same, but my perspective had changed completely. The house was quiet when I arrived, but it was a peaceful quiet rather than an oppressive one. My office still contained the evidence folder that had brought down Trent's empire, but I'd moved it to an archive directory. The investigation was over, the case was closed, and my life was my own again. Tomorrow, I would speak to other victims, share my experience, and help them understand that recovery was possible. Tonight, I was going to cook dinner, watch a movie, and enjoy the simple pleasure of living honestly in my own home. It had been a long road from that dinner table conversation where Lena had announced Trent's visit to this moment of quiet satisfaction. But every step had been worth it. Every hour of investigation had paid off, and every risk had been justified. Justice, it turned out, tasted better than revenge.